In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to prepare your gouache to paint swatches. Gouache is a lot like watercolor, but it's much more opaque. It's really made of just a couple of ingredients, such as pigment that gives it its color, and its mediums such as gum arabic or a polymer, as in this acrylic gouache. Some gouaches will work just fine right out of the tubes. Other ones you might need to add a little bit of water in order to get them to flow, which is what we're going to do here with this one. Really, we want this gouache to feel like very creamy, very smooth, so it doesn't leave any ridges, or it's not so watered down that it feels like skim milk and leaves kind of transparent marks. We shouldn't see the paper through our swatches. So you could think of it as sort of getting into the consistency of melted ice cream or cream right out of the carton. So I'm going to use just black and white for this scale, and I'm going to put them across from each other. I'm going to start out with my white, and I'm going to put probably about a third to a half a well in there. And I really don't want to do much less than that because I don't want to run out partway through doing my scale. One of the most time-consuming aspects of painting with gouache is mixing up the consistency just right. So having to remix it can be really time-consuming. So about half a well should do nicely. And I'm going to do my white first because it's nice and clean. My palette's relatively clean right now. And if I check the consistency of it, which you can do with the back of a brush, or you can do with a palette knife, as I'm going to do, you can also use a toothpick or a part of a chopstick or whatever you have handy. If I check the consistency, you can see it's very thick. It's much more like frozen ice cream right now, kind of buttery feeling. So I'm going to need to add some water to this and wet that down. So I'm just going to go into my little clean water container here. And I'm going to just add about, let's try about 4 drops of the white just to get started. It's been a little while since I've used acrylic gouache, so I kind of forget how it behaves. Sorry for that horrible screeching noise, yikes. And you can see it got a little bit more wet, so I can tell the water's not going to do that much to it, so I can feel a little bit braver about adding more drops to it. So let's do about, let's try 8 drops this time. I can check now and then. I want to make sure it's really mixed nice and thoroughly. And I can see it's starting to drip off the end of this, which is what I wanted to do, but it's still kind of clinging a little bit. So I think we're getting close. I think about another 8 drops ought to do it. Now, if you don't have an eyedropper like I do, you can use the back of a paintbrush, just like so. Just dip it into your clean water, and then it'll just drip off the end. It's just a little bit more tedious. Checking now, and I can see it drops fairly quickly. So I think any more water than this would probably start to get this being transparent, but I think this will have a nice flow to it. Just like so. Just a little cling and then it drops. That's perfect. And I can see when I kind of check the consistency here, it doesn't have any stiff peaks. It just melts right back into the pool. And I have a really nice full well just kind of below the rim of it. That's just perfect. That worked out really nicely. I'm using my paper towel to wipe up my paint. This is going to be what gets dirty. And if needed later, I have a rag for cleaning up water. So this will get dirty. I can throw it out and this will stay clean so I don't actually get my paint dirty when I don't want it to be dirty. So let's mix up some black now. Now, every color is made from a different pigment, so they're going to feel different. They're going to require different amounts of water in them. So, as we can see, from that last time, it took me probably in the ballpark of 20 drops of water to get it to be like cream. I'm going to be very gentle. I'm just going to put, let's try 4 to get started here. And let's mix that up. I'd like to point out that I am working in opposite wells. I don't want them close to each other. I don't want to accidentally contaminate the other well. You can see that still wasn't enough. Some brands, 4 drops might be all that you need. The black tends to be usually a little bit more oily. It's sometimes made from some kind of coal tar residue, or sometimes made from charred bones, so things that might have more fat or oil in them. It can sometimes have almost a sort of a greasy sort of consistency to it. I'm going to feel brave enough to add another 4 drops. Check it again. And not moving as quickly as I expected with some other brands. So let's go for another 5, 6, 7, or 8 drops. And you can just keep doing this until it's got a nice creamy consistency like the white. As I think this has now, it's kind of dripping off a little bit. Maybe just another 2 drops. I don't think anything more than that would be helpful. There we go. That feels nice. That's worth at least trying out. If I paint with it and I get kind of thick ridges and it's not laying flat, or I can see the brush stroke too plainly, I might add a little bit more water to it. Or conversely, if it looks transparent, especially after it dries, I can add more water to it. So I might still make some adjustments afterwards. Once again, I've got a mostly full well here. I feel ready to go and give my first swatches a try.